my top 10 most complimented, long-lasting fragrances for men of all time. Now, as always, I just want to preface this by saying, I used to work in niche fragrance, specifically for Creed, but niche fragrance in general. But even more importantly, I fell in love with fragrance and cologne and perfumery almost 6 years ago now, and just sort of had to go through the experience of listening to those people on YouTube or forums or whatever, that weren't being so honest and were just trying to, make a little bit of commission or, sell their products and stuff, push that. But then I also, went through and found those people that were genuinely being honest and being authentic when they talked about fragrance, And now, after having that experience for almost 6 years now of going through all of that and trying out these fragrances for myself, I've been able to find out what actually works and what's more genuine and what actually lasts longer and what gets compliments and so on and so on. Now, this first one is actually going to include two fragrances, a bit kind of like toe to toe, but there is sort of a winner out of these two. And it's going to sound odd at first, but it's going to be Inicio's Oud for Greatness and Memo's African Leather. Almost forgot there. African Leather. Now, these both have an oud in them, right? Now, this is Oud for Greatness, so it sort of orients itself more around that oud, but they're both pretty like fresh, spicy. This one is called African Leather, but it doesn't really have a strong leather in it. I really don't get it, like almost at all. It's more of like this fresh, spicy, it has that oud, it has like these woods that it really settles into as well. But that oud on the bottom of African Leather is not as refined as Oud for Greatness is. Now, Oud for Greatness is really refined, yeah, the African Leather Oud, it's very, it is refined in general, but I have like a hypersensitive nose when it comes to agarwood or ouds, where it has that sort of, you might have heard like barnyardish sort of scent. It's like this very animalic, almost like fecal. Not almost fecal, but it is. Like when it's not refined, it is like this petting zoo, barnyard, country fair, like fecal scent. And I'm really sensitive to that, but I don't get that so much in this. I've gotten little whiffs of it here and there while wearing it. Now I know for some people, especially when I was working in niche fragrance, there were a couple fragrances that really had these pungent, unrefined ouds. And when I would show them to like my coworkers or to people and I would warn them first, I would preface it, I wouldn't just put that under their nose immediately without saying anything, But I would warn them and I'd be like, this is gonna smell like poop. Some people just didn't get it at all. And I'm like, is it just because they have like never gone to like a petting zoo or something? Or is there just something wrong with my nose? But both of these really nice, sort of like fresher, spicy, but still for like that cooler weather sort of thing. Both are both are really good on terms of longevity, but Oud for Greatness is gonna be, still incredible overall. And this one it's gonna be long lasting, but this one definitely beats it in the longevity and projection department. Now, the next one is going to be Jean Paul Gaultier's Ultra Male. Now, Ultra Male is this very loud, youthful, sort of vanillan scent with this top note of pear that is just very different, and I love it so much. Now, like I said, it is a bit more youthful in my opinion. When I've worn it, I've gotten more compliments from the people between the ages of like late teens to like late 20s. But I do think it can be appropriate for pretty much any age range. I also think, it's very geared towards like nightclub, clubbing, party sort of things. I do think you can pull it off for like a date night sort of occasion, but you would want to be really cautious with how much you're spraying it. Like I would only do like one to the back of the shirt or like one to the back of the neck instead or something like that, because it does have that crazy projection and longevity. Now, I know this is a long-lasting fragrance video, but this next one is gonna seem a little sus, but it still has to be a little balance between that compliment factor and longevity. So the next one is going to be Club de Nuit Intense Man from Armaf. Now, this one has very solid projection and longevity. It does. It's probably on the better side of solid, right? But as we all know, it is the spitting image of Creed's Aventus, but it's better in the longevity and projection and leans more towards Aventus Cologne, which honestly, man, objectively, is just better than Aventus. It really is, because it leans more into those citruses. It has that top note of mandarin instead of the apple and lemon. I'm feeling like I'm back at work now. No, I'm just kidding. But and this one definitely leans more into those citruses instead of the fruitiness. And also I feel like this takes away the smokiness, a lot of the smokiness away from the bottom of a Ventus, which is what really throws women off, it seems like. And because of that, Club de Nuit is going to garner you so many more compliments from both genders, but I would say still is probably going to lean more towards getting more compliments from men, because the Aventus DNA is just, for some reason, like wired to getting compliments from men. But genuinely, I would never drop the money on Aventus when you could be getting Club de Nuit Intense Man. I think it's like, dude, I think it's less than 40 bucks on Amazon right now too, which is insane. I mean, you can see I don't even, I'm not even spraying the Aventus like ever. Now this next one is a newer one for me, and that is going to be Montal's Arabian Tonka. Also, all the Montal bottles, as I always say, are actually fidget spinners, so it's a 2-in-1 if you get that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off right now so I can talk. But I've only worn this a couple times before actually owning it. The first time I ever went and smelled it, I actually got a blotter card of it, or like one of the, you know, fragrance strips to smell. And I had it in my back pocket. And after I left, I'm trying to remember what place I was at that I smelled the Montal. But after I left, I went to a Panera, and that was the only blotter card in my back pocket. And when I was waiting for my food, the woman called my name, and then I went up to grab my food, and she was like, by the way, like, what fragrance are you, or like, what cologne are you wearing? And I was just so thrown off because I wasn't wearing a fragrance. The only thing I had that could be emitting a fragrance was the Arabian's Tonka card in my back pocket. In my back pocket, past the counter, she was smelling it. So this one, it's gotta be the strongest. I mean, it is the strongest out of all of these that I have in front of me. And to be completely honest, I do not have much personal experience with Arabian's Tonka, like by wearing it personally, but I've heard so many amazing things from people that I genuinely trust and are very reputable about it being one of the most complimented and mass appealing fragrances from Montal. But you really do have to be careful, because if you spray this more than once or twice, when I've sprayed it, I've only sprayed it once. Genuinely, man, it is insane. I mean, you can expect the projection and longevity that you would get from the mass majority of Montals, seriously. Now the next one is going to be Margiella's Replica Jazz Club. Now Jazz Club, it has to be hands down the most mass appealing, especially to the feminine nose, out of the entire Replica line. Now it has like this beautiful like booziness. I mean, they're all based off of settings and scenarios, right? So Jazz Club, you can expect to get those boozy sort of tobacco sort of vibes, you know, the rum. There's like a bit of that smokiness with that tobacco, but it's not the same smokiness as like the bottom of a Ventus, or like this literal smokiness you get from By the Fireplace, which was, and still is, a regret for me getting a full thing of By the Fireplace instead of Jazz Club. You know, I always say By the Fireplace really does smell like an actual campfire, or like bonfire and just burning smoke sort of thing. Jazz Club, the smokiness in there is nothing like that. It really isn't. It's got some sweetness, and I think it's from a little bit of vanilla on the bottom or middle as well. And it's just gotta be the best out of the Margiela line, genuinely. Now the next one is going to be Parfums de Marly's Carlisle. Now obviously this isn't Carlisle, this is Herod. That's also a mistake that I made, because when I had gotten my nose on the Parfums de Marly, or I think I had gotten a sampler kit years ago, and Herod, the scent profile of it, I love it, it's amazing, but Herod does not last, man. It really doesn't. And I've heard so many similar things from other people that have Herod, and they also regret it. Carlisle though, the projection and longevity of that, the longevity is amazing on Carlisle, and I really wish I would have opted to grab that instead of the Herod. Now, both of them have amazing scent profiles. This one leans a bit more towards those, you know, sort of tobaccos, and it has that cinnamon on top, I believe. So it has those different sort of spices and tobacco, but Carlisle seems to be the most mass appealing for like a men's sort of date night, or like winter fall sort of fragrance, cooler weather fragrance, to the feminine nose, genuinely. When I was selling for Parfums de Marly, probably the hands down most sold was Percival, and it's a really nice, well-rounded fragrance. It's beautiful, but runner-up had to have been Carlisle. It really had to have been. I mean, Altair had come out at the time as well, around the middle of me working in fragrance, but even then, I think Carlisle, I was still selling way more than Herod. Now this next one is going to be Inicio's Side Effect. Now, of course, we have to have another Inicio on a long-lasting fragrance video, right? No, but seriously, these are the two Inicios I have, and Side Effect has to be the most mass appealing out of Inicio in general, I think, at all. And it's especially another winner for the feminine nose. And the projection and longevity of it is what you could expect out of any Initio fragrance for the mass majority, right? And I always like to put this one sort of toe-to-toe with Jean Paul Gaultier's Ultra Male because they both have that incredibly loud sort of performance, that sweetness. Now, of course, this one has more of like that pear vanilla thing going on, while Side Effect has more of that, like, it's very straightforward with like rum, tobacco, vanilla, and cinnamon. I mean, there's some other things in there as well, but I mean, that's the main scent profile that I get from Side Effect. And I truly believe you can sort of wear these in the same settings and scenarios, but this one's just a bit more dressed up and mature than Ultra Male. I mean, this one, it's I would say it would be perfect for more like speakeasy, lounge, jazz club sort of vibes, while this one would be more appropriate for those youthful, like clubbing, party sort of events like that. But you could also wear Side Effect to those sort of occasions as well. And the descriptor that I hear for Side Effect all the time is intoxicating, and I believe it to be 100% true. It is a very intoxicating fragrance. Now, number 3 on this list is going to seem just a little bit sus because I don't have a full bottle of it and it is newer to me, but it's going to be Mancera's Cedrat Boise. Cedrat Boise, honestly, I don't know. No, but it smells amazing. It is very versatile. When I first smelled it, I was like, oh, that's definitely got to be like more of like this colder weather sort of fragrance. But honestly, I think you could get away with it, not in hot weather, but even in those, you know, more neutral or like almost leaning a bit warmer weather, but it definitely leans more towards those colder weather sort of vibes. Now, the fruitiness you'll get out of it at first isn't very like feminine either. It's pretty neutral and very like mass appealing, and it really settles into those like woods and patchouli. And I think there's a tiny bit of leather on the bottom, but it's got to be the same case with like an African leather situation where you don't really get that leather in it at all. But after it leans into those, it definitely becomes this more masculine sort of fragrance. I mean, I think it's very unisex, maybe just leaning a bit. I mean, genuinely, I think when it comes to those unisex fragrances, it really depends on who's wearing it. It also has some of my favorite woods in there. It has a cedar wood and a sandalwood, and it is very, from what I've heard, because I've only worn it a few times and I've gotten a compliment from it once, but from those reputable sources that I listen to, they really swear by it being super appealing to the feminine nose. And its longevity and projection is on the right side of solid as well, I will say that. Now, number 2 on this list is going to be Yves Saint Laurent's Tuxedo. Now, Tuxedo is just one of my favorites of all time, man. The patchouli in it is just so well-rounded, well-crafted. It's beautiful, it really is. Now, I will say the longevity and projection of this one isn't incredible, but it's far beyond solid. It really is. Now, I always say this one leans more towards like this dressed up occasion or event or date night sort of thing. That's a bit more dressed up. You know, you don't want to be wearing this in like cargo shorts and like a tank top sort of thing, but it's definitely leans more towards those dressed up, warmer, ambery vibes. I mean, the patchouli is the strongest thing you're gonna get out of it, and a little bit of spice as well, but oh man. Like I said, one of my favorites of all time. And the compliment factor, I would say it's huge and it's very well balanced, but I would say it leans a bit more towards that feminine appeal as well. Now, number 1 on the list is going to be Xerxof's Naxos. Now, Naxos is hands down my favorite date night fragrance, and it's one of my favorites just in general as well. Oh man, it's just got this beautiful compliment factor, amazing longevity and projection, genuinely. And it is very well crafted and well rounded, and it smells very niche as well. I mean, it smells amazing. You can't get this confused with any designer. It's very sweet with those vanillins and tonka and honey. There's also this base tobacco in there as well, I believe, so it makes it like when I first smelled it, I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's definitely like very unisex, but that tobacco really rounds it into a more masculine leaning fragrance. This is a legendary fragrance, truly, man. Now, I hope this video was valuable for you guys. If you like fragrance and that sort of thing, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment if you have anything to say or have any questions. Also, you can feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll link that below. But yeah, like the video, and I'll see you guys around next time. Have a good one, guys. God bless.